As I live and breathe, Vanessa Williams, welcome to Jason Unleashed. How are you?
Thank you. Good to see you, Jason.
Good to see you too. Happy belated birthday.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm 61 in a day.
61 in a day, triple 20 in a day. Wow. Um, where to begin? When I think about you and who you are in my life, and I'm sure Vanessa, millions of other people's lives across the world, you are an icon for so many reasons. And I know people throw out that word haphazardly, icon this, icon that, but you truly personify and are emblematic of that superlative. Congratulations on who you are and everything you have given to the world. I have to start by telling you that because I'm truly a fan.
I appreciate it. And, at 61 and reflecting back on my life and what I've been able to accomplish and experience up to this time in my life, it is extraordinary. It's a gift, and it's a reminder to take risks in life. You have no idea what's going to happen in your life, so just be open to people that come into your lives that change and inspire you, and and being open. And I think that's the I'm not even we're not even getting to advice yet, but I'm jumping in because you just never know what happens, and the most unexpected things can turn out to be extraordinary.
And the biggest blessings, what you're talking about, I think is something that I'm going through personally, and I'm sure some of our viewers that are going through personally as well, is about letting go and allowing. And you have demonstrated that you are so good at that. We're going to talk about your career, but first, can we celebrate you and The Devil Wears Prada taking on the role of Miranda Priestley on London's West End at Dominion Theatre this fall? How elated are you?
Really happy. It's been a great journey. Luckily, I know Jerry Mitchell, who gave me a call last summer and said, "Listen, I am taking over. Expect a call a little later." And I was like, "Okay." And he said, "I guarantee I'm going to make this fantastic." And so again, it's trusting because I could be very wary and leery and say, "I don't know. It's not a guaranteed thing." But the fact that I get a chance to sing new Elton John music, which is
Wow.
incredible. Growing
Yes.
up and listening to him on the radio, now he's writing for something that I can debut is amazing. And it's been a great opportunity for me to return to the West End stage. I was there 4 years ago in 2020 trying to open City of Angels, which was an extraordinary production. We had only done four performances. We were in our preview, portion, and that's when COVID shut us down. So I didn't get a chance to open up on the West End. So I'll be happy to do it for real this time.
Speaking of you being on stage, I had the joy of seeing you perform on the Vakaya cruise this past spring, and I saw you twice. You were incredible, and I thought about the hits on hits on hits and your legacy musically. I mean, I know who you are in my musical tapestry. I'll never forget 1991 when I purchased The Comfort Zone on tape from
Mhm.
Sam Goody, and just how many times I played the hell out of Running Back to You and the rap and everything, but did you always know that music was going to be so synonymous of to who you are and have the career that you've had?
I had no idea I'd be a recording artist. No, I honestly thought, again, Broadway was going to be the top, and I'd be, if I was lucky, I'd be able to have a career in the theater. So I never thought I'd be a recording artist, and that came out of me becoming a star at at 21 or so, and getting attention because I sang nationally as Miss America. So they knew that I had a voice. But even getting a real legitimate deal, they said I sounded too Broadway. So I still had to kind of backdoor it to find somebody who really believed that I could have range, not just sing Broadway, but also sing R&B and ballads and classic. And so it took a while to get the right deal. And even when I had the right deal, it was really hard to convince people that I wasn't going to be a one-hit wonder just because I was famous, and it was going to dry up quickly. So it's always been a struggle, and I think probably the subtitle of my next book should be I had no idea she could do that, because I always hear that over and over again. Even thank God you know my music, but a lot of people that only know me as an actress say, I had no idea she could do that. I didn't know she was a singer. And then they see me and dance with me. Oh, I didn't know she could dance. And so there's all these epiphanies that people have because they don't realize the texture and depth of my career.
Well, texture, great word to describe your career because you are beyond a triple threat. I mean, Dance with Me, Vanessa, that movie alone, me and my mom saw it in the theater, and I thought, how is this woman so incredible at everything? And like some people, they go for a role, they study for the role, they learn certain things to make sure that they can deliver the role for the movie. And that's what an actor and actress does, right? But in that movie specifically, the power and the way you danced and the way you attacked everything, and in addition to how you look incredible, was really was emblematic of who you are as an artist and your work ethic. Who instilled that ethic in you?
Well, my parents are both teachers, both music teachers. So not only were they very disciplined, they also taught hundreds and hundreds of students through both their careers. My dad taught for 42 years, my mom for 38. So that discipline, being musicians and having to practice, which we did, that was part of growing up. And also theater, you can't show up late. You can't be like, I'm going to have them wait for an hour and a half. Like, no, curtain is up at 8:05, half hour is called at 7:30. You better be ready to go, mic'd up, dressed and glam and do your own stuff, warmed up and do your show. So I think having that kind of discipline certainly came from the work that I had to do, but also watching my parents. But, you mentioned Dance with Me. And again, talking about being open, Dance with Me was written for Sandra Bullock, and she fell out. And they came to me after one of the casting directors called the choreographer and said, do you know Vanessa Williams? And she's like, yeah, of course. She said, do you think she could do this? I said, absolutely. So you just never know when you're going to get that opportunity to open a door that might not have been thought of before. So always stay open and always make sure you take a risk.
We see you as someone who, and I agree with you 100%, that you kind of have to get out of your own way, but also you can't have this myopic view of how your career can go. Staying open and being available opens some of the biggest doors. I think a lot of us, and myself included, we get in our own way because we have, especially in this business, as you know, because we grow up, you, theater, me, it was always television. And you see your idols, you see the people that you look up to, how they did it. And it seems like there's one path you have to take because you try to emulate, or you don't really have the advice of people to say, hey, this is how you do it, especially being people of color. There's not a lot of support in a lot of spaces. It's very limited, or at least it was. And then so you think, okay, there's one way to achieve this, and you start on that path, and you find out that, nope, it's not working out that way. And it's very easy to become discouraged, to give up, to feel like it can't happen for you because you're so closed and you're so passionate about what you want. You do the work, you show up, you have the talent, you have the skill. Why isn't it working out? And sometimes letting go and allowing opens up bigger doors than you trying to be in control all at once. Vanessa, let's take it back to 1983. You made history, becoming a woman of first as the first woman of color to win Miss America, crowned in 1984. And then obviously something happened where you had to step back.
I actually wrote a book with my mom called You Have No Idea, because, what I went through was different than what she and my dad were kind of sheltering me from. And it was fascinating. I was 20 years old when I won. Junior in college, majoring in musical theater, supposed to do my junior year abroad in London. And so again, I sang a song that I did in performance class. My friend played the piano and I won. Then I went to States, won that same song, same friend playing piano. And all of a sudden, 3 months after that, I'm in the Miss America national competition and winning the whole thing. So that was a shock to the system since I really had no intention of actually winning. I knew I had the talent and the intellect, but I had no idea it was going to happen that year for me and for the nation and the world. So I certainly wasn't prepared to um, deal with the onslaught of hatred, threats. My parents had a box of letters that the FBI got of credible threats that I was given constantly. People calling my house phone because back then everyone had a phone book and our
Sure.
name was listed in the phone book. So people were making threats, calling the house, writing letters. I mean, in the book, my mother talks about, sometimes there was pubic hair, disgusting things that were sent because people were so upset about me being Black and representing America. So that was a surprise of the hatred and the racism that occurred back in 1983. My parents got married and had me in the 60s. I assume that the change of the cultural movement and all that they'd gone through, the civil rights movement with Martin Luther King being assassinated and JFK being assassinated and all that tumult would have led for a better world for me 25 years later. So I was kind of in a bubble, living in New York, thinking, la di da, everything was great, and the racism had waned.
Sure.
No way did that happen. So dealing with that personally was tough because I took it all personally. And I was like, what have I, how do I prove to you that I'm worthy?
Yeah.
Which really at 20 years old, you're like, I'm just me. And how do I wrestle with that kind of attack? So as Miss America, I wanted to prove that I was the smartest and the most aggressive and the most with it there ever was. So I was pro ERA, I was pro choice, and these were my personal beliefs, and I had to stand up and be, affirm in my beliefs and my thoughts. So that was a pushback because no one had ever done that. No one was um, uh, that blatant in terms of personal stances. And then after meeting presidents, singing all over the place, having incredible impact through in the nation, but also personally, I had amazing experiences. To have something that happened to me as a teenager behind my back without any assigned release forms and completely something that I had no control over. Uh, Bubble up and that being the I literally had 1 month left of appearances to go through. So having that happen to me was felt like a betrayal,
Sure.
felt like a huge embarrassment. Of course, as a child of two parents that were extremely supportive, was humiliating for me, and also completely enraged. So those were my a myriad of emotions, but those were the ones that were in the forefront. And I did have a huge contingency of people saying, "Fight for your crown." How dare they say you need to, you have a certain amount of hours to relinquish the crown. So there was a lot going on, and I look back at my 21-year-old self and say the reason I got through it was because I had a community and family, and of course, my parents that said, "We're here for you. We love you, and we're going to get through it."
I mean, it takes a village. I remember reading because I mean, like I said, I've been a fan of yours for decades now, and I just remember reading what happened and thinking, how does someone heal from that? Because a breakup, heartbreak, betrayal, all those things are very visceral, as you know, Vanessa. And then publicly to be Miss America, right? And to have that which you have worked so hard for shrouded in this stink, right? Something so just undesirable against your will. as a young adult had to obviously hurt you to your core, stripping away family and community for yourself. How did you begin that healing when you were alone? What did you say to yourself? What did you move through?
Well, the hype was so incredible. And again, we didn't have social media back then. The media attention was so overwhelming. And the way I was described throughout the media was so um, uh, overwhelming to me. It almost was easy for me to distance myself because they were like talking about a character. They didn't know me. They had never met me. They don't know who I am. They didn't know my real core. So yes, it stung. Yes, all the jokes hurt. Yes, it's hard not to take it personally, but you do. But the fact that you had an image of Miss America, an image of a scandalized beauty queen, and here I was, a 21-year-old, just kind of dumped in the middle of it all. I really kind of had to distance myself and say they're debating and hyping these two images that are not the real me. So that gave me some kind of solace that I could distance myself. But believe me, it was no walk in the park. It was incredibly painful.
Yeah.
And but again, it didn't take away my talent. It didn't take away my dreams. And I knew, okay, once the dust settles, I don't know how long it's going to take, but they'll get a chance to see who I really am. And it took a long time. It took me 10 years to get to Broadway, but they eventually saw me in 1994 step into Cheetah Rivera's shoes and do Kiss of the Spider Woman on Broadway. And they said, oh, I didn't know she could do that. Thus, my favorite parentheses quote.
I can imagine for you, you probably thought, I'm done. It's over. Even though, of course, you're talented, you have family, there is a part of you that probably felt like, how can I ever just release this, not have this be the scarlet letter? When did it start to feel good that you were on the up and up? Because they say the only way, when you hit rock bottom, if you will, the only place you can go is up. When did you start to feel like you were on your way up again?
You know, looking back, I think I was really lucky that I had a team that recognized my talent. So the door was never really closed from the get-go because producers said, oh, we can get her in this TV show and get a lot of viewers. So I jumped into Showtime Returns to the Apollo and I played Josephine Baker and sang La Vie en Rose. So that was my Black community saying, she's still ours and we applaud her. Then I did a show called Partners in Crime with Linda Carter and Lonnie Anderson for NBC. And I was doing an episode of that, but I got huge numbers. So they knew, okay, she can act. And I played Roselle Robbins. So I dipped into, my singing and dancing in that. I did TJ Hooker, He's the Mayor, all these television, small parts, the Red Fox show, all these small parts just to stay in the game, which allowed me to work. And you never know who's looking at you.
Ugly Betty, Daytime Divas, Desperate Housewives. I mean, The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Just so many moments that you have given us in so many facets of the business. Would you ever just hang it all up and be like, you know what, I'm good? Or does the wheel keep on turning and Vanessa keeps on singing?
Uh, I've been lucky enough to know the divas of the industry. I've met Lena Horne. Eartha Kitt played my mother in a movie. Diane Carroll played my mother in a television movie. Knowing Cheetah Rivera. And these divas never said, I'm done. They always kind of were dipping their toe into, well, what's next? What do you have to offer me next? A great example was working with Cicely Tyson when I did Trip to Banifo with her on Broadway. She had whittled down her team to one lawyer and an assistant. And she said, when Trip to Banifo came out, the movie, she told her lawyer, I'd always want to do that show, that movie. And then she got the opportunity to do it on Broadway. And here she is. She was she was in her 80s when she stepped into that role. So you think it's all over and then something opens up and you say, well, I got to do it. So I don't think I've ever felt like I'm done. I got to hang it up. I certainly do. I enjoy my vacation time for sure, but it's that creativity. It's always I'm in the producer space right now. I'm working on a musical, A Wonderful World, about the Louis Armstrong story. Working on a couple other projects with my production partner. So I love the creating process of that's a great idea. Who could we get for that? Who do we want to choreograph? Oh my God, directing. Okay, scenic design. I have new music coming out. We're in the process of editing my first video. So it's like, we got to do this. That looks great. Mike Ruiz would be perfect for that. Mike ended up directing
Yes,
it.
Mike. Love
Yeah,
Mike.
yeah. So the creativity always keeps you young, but that's kind of what I love about the whole business.
And your new song's called Legs, yes?
The first single is called Legs. Yes, it is.
Love that.
Legs the last to go.
You are also a mother of four. And I think for you, and I would imagine for you, that's been your greatest achievement. Four great kids, talented in their own right. Did you ever think you were going to be a mom? Was that ever in the cards for you?
Absolutely. I don't know what I would do if I wasn't able to have kids. I've always wanted kids. So it's a joy, and they're all adults now doing their own things. Two are in music, two are in what my eldest is a into Pilates, and the Pilates instructor. My middle one is Lion Babe, and she's an amazing singer and performer. My son's in the fashion world, and then my youngest is her own singer, Sasha Fox. You can get her stuff on Spotify and Apple, Music as well. And I think she's already released four tunes already. So happy that they've been able to see my career and be influenced by all the experiences that I've had. They've been, in the recording studio, on Broadway backstage with me, on the sets when I'm doing television and movies, seen me on the road and been in my tour bus. So they've seen the hard work, but they also know how joyous it is.
Through all the people you have been to us and in your life, from the different chapters of your life and the different phases, if someone was to ask you, who is Vanessa Williams now, what would you say?
Now I'm a happy grandmother with a 2-year-old who I absolutely adore. And it's the light that shines when you see new life and a new opportunity to teach. And that's when life is kind of revealed to you. Laughter, exploration, joy, family, fun, seeing it through my grandson's eyes is a renewal, and it makes you appreciate every opportunity you have on this planet.